Greetings ladies and gentlemen, Adrian here. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here to talk about Eternal Magic, an upcoming MMORPG brought to the West, which is currently in closed beta, and I've been playing on it to gather some information for you guys and gals. So let's get straight to it. Here's my quick impressions of Eternal Magic. Eternal Magic is a Chinese theme park MMORPG that's brought to the West by Russian company 101XP, and the game will be free to play at launch with an open beta planned sometime after we're done with the CBT. There are other versions that can be played right now if you don't want to wait around for access or to get a guaranteed pack, and I'm not quite sure about the key differences between the existing one in the East, which is going to be the Chinese version, and I think there's a Russian one too, versus what I'm playing now, so I can only share what I've experienced with the Western version's CBT so far. Right, the game has 6 classes to pick from with basic Trinity in play, and then you can further customize that with builds later on. There's no gender locking, but character appearance is very limited. Furthermore, players in the CBT can only level up to the cap of 50, but that will go up to 70 when the game goes live. When you start the game, it literally wastes no time and takes off with the introduction to the story and combat, and you're already in the thick of things within 5 minutes tops. You have 2 control options in Eternal Magic. One is your basic third-person perspective, and the second is a click-to-move option, which lets you play it like a top-down hack-and-slash RPG or a MOBA if you want to. I found myself liking the second a lot more, and being able to swap between the two did freshen up my leveling experience jumping between questing and dungeons. Combat, while looks and feels dated, it works, and I like the amount of class customization you're afforded to mix and match skills, passives and more just to create your ideal playstyle down the line. Now going back to that leveling experience, PvE questing didn't really do a whole lot for me. Gaining character XP is very fast all the way to level 40 before it starts to take a dip, and you can get there from just following the main story quest chain on top of killing any additional mobs required for objectives. So you can play this as a typical theme park MMO or throw in some grinding mobs for XP if you want to. Along the way, plenty of systems, and I mean plenty, will start unlocking, and these range from the pet system, which is pretty important for combat, in addition to other things I'll talk about later on. If you're not having fun experimenting with new class skills, pet abilities, and builds, then it's going to be quite a snooze fest, because overall the difficulty isn't much of a challenge in PvE. What also doesn't help is that the overall story, narratives, and characters are generic at best, with some obvious localization errors in the dialogue translations and the way it's presented to you. In the content department, you have your usual mix of PvE and PvP. I did say the questing was bland and uninteresting, with little or no challenge, but things do pick up once you start unlocking the group content. Players get access to dungeons at level 18, and these are not bad at all, with multiple boss fights and mechanics that can hurt you if you didn't learn anything about your class and how it plays while leveling. There's dungeon quests, plenty of loot and experience points, and of course, more challenge overall. On the landscape, there's world bosses that spawn in each zone, and players within the level bracket can teleport around to take them down, ideally in a group or with guildmates, because these things are the most challenging monsters on the landscape that you'll come across. For PvP, Eternal Magic will launch with multiple modes like GVG, Battlegrounds, and a MOBA mode too, but in CBT, I've only seen Classic Battlegrounds so far. There's 4 of them that you can queue for once unlocked at level 35, and each are 10 versus 10 with varying objectives like point control and capture the flag. I wish I could tell you more about them, but unfortunately, the bloody queues never pop, at least if you're queuing solo. On the EU server in CBT, and at peak times too, I could sit there for over an hour and see people just begging for more players to join the queue in world chat, but nothing happens. Oh well. Progression-wise, honestly, everything on offer feels like a hodgepodge concoction. There's quite a lot of stuff thrown at you, and I'm trying to identify the real important things to focus on versus the fluff. So let's talk about the main things. The pet progression system is pretty key because they will fight alongside you and earn XP, which gives you access to their skills, and some of them are pretty damn powerful, good enough to melt bosses. You can collect more pets, upgrade their level and quality, give them equipment, and send them on passive time-based expedition missions for XP and treasures, akin to something like World of Warcraft's garrison system, if you will. For your character's gear and items, you have an upgrade system to increase an item's star level that is free to do below level 60, and it appears to require materials and may have a chance to fail after that safety threshold. That's just my guess though, since we can't progress beyond level 50 in CBT. And then there's gear enchanting, where you spend either currency or resources to upgrade a specific stat, and that's going to be RNG with varying different levels. And rounding it up is the rune system for socketing in gear pieces and a spirit system. Elsewhere, you have basic crafting for making gear and resources, a guild system for contribution points and other buffs, and the rest are somewhat typical of a free-to-play Eastern MMORPG, which is not worth covering here. Now, how does it run and how does it look? Eternal Magic surprisingly runs pretty decent, excluding the occasional stutter here and there when changing zones. Otherwise, I've had no real issues with it. The graphics and overall look and feel of the game is not going to blow you away if you were expecting modern day aesthetics. They do try though with in-game cutscenes for story quests, but that really falls flat because of no voice acting or any story impact whatsoever to make me care. I do appreciate the somewhat clean UI presentation, but that's where it stops. For character designs and combat animations, they are at best something that looks to be from the late 2000s, and it's down to your tolerance on that front. Most of your experience with the game though may remind you of other similar games, because I've seen this feedback many times all over the place in my videos and in my streams that Eternal Magic reuses a lot of assets and designs from around the block. And of course, we can't end this without talking about the game's monetization systems. As mentioned in the overview, Eternal Magic will be free to play when it launches. So yes, there is a cash up, and its contents and influence within the game is a mixed bag. On one hand, you have costumes that offer flat stats for your character. For example, chest pieces and bikini tops for females offers a +30 to strength, agility, and intelligence, which are your main stats, while the other cosmetics are just that. Costumes to show off. In the other sections of the store, like mounts, consumables, and gifts, you'll largely find convenience, like faster mounts, pet items, and upgrade items, and you can even buy in-game gold and silver to purchase equipment and goods from vendors. And I have no idea if they'll change things for the OBT or launch, and from where it stands, you could argue that it is leaning toward pretty advantageous, and the only thing left that I haven't seen is how much the premium currency, called Ellers, is going to cost for real money. You can't buy them in the CBT, but you're allocated a large sum daily for just participating in the CBT, which won't matter because progress will be wiped once it's all over. The question remains though, will it be pay to win? Perhaps yes, and perhaps no, until we can actually get to the level cap of 70 and see for ourselves just how the cash store influences the end game. It's too early to be conclusive, so this one needs to be revisited at a later date. Right, so for final thoughts from CBT, a couple of things stand out, and one of them surprised me for sure. The first being the MOBA top-down style gameplay and the fact that it actually works for this MMO, as good or even better in my opinion than the traditional perspective third-person gameplay for combat that's also offered here. I expected the performance to be poor, but I had no issues in the 4 days I've been playing it, in comparison to similar games I've played of this style. I can also appreciate what they're trying to do with the class in combat. There's plenty of build freedom with different sets of skills to really experiment with, and I do like that. However, everything else about the game just feels messy on so many different levels. It reminds me of when I first played Revelation Online, which took a whole bunch of systems and lumped them all together, and I'm getting similar vibes here. Well, that's just round one for me. I'll revisit the game during the OBT and see what changes for better or for worse. And that about wraps it up, folks. If you're playing in the CBT too, hey, feel free to share your own thoughts and experiences about Eternal Magic down in the comment section below. Until the next upload, hit the like button if you enjoy the content, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and click that bell icon to get notified on all my latest videos. Once again, I'm Adrian, and I thank you for watching.